Before marrying into the Eastern Palace, I knew the crown prince had a flower who understood his heart. She excelled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and had read military treatises thoroughly, yet willingly served as his personal maid. On our wedding night, which should have been mine, the crown prince instead took her to the palace rooftop, where they gazed at the moon all night long. I neither wept nor made a scene. Fulfilling my duty as crown princess, I spared no effort to support their love. Watching them forsake the empire for the open seas, I craved power and wealth. A husband meant little to me. Yet in the end, the crown prince regretted his choice. Born into the young clan of Hongnong, my aunt and great-aunt were both empresses. As the eldest legitimate daughter of my generation, I was destined to enter the Eastern Palace as crown princess, barring any unforeseen circumstances. In these intertwined aristocratic families, daughters past marriageable age must wed into other prominent houses to cement their clan standing. From childhood, I understood. If a woman craves romance, finding a suitable husband is fortunate. But if she marries poorly, she wastes her life. My aunt once told me that another great-aunt was originally destined for the Eastern Palace, but she fell for a penniless scholar, choosing to break ties with her family to live her own life. Later, however, that poor scholar abandoned her, pregnant. She had no choice but to return to the young household. Born into a family of great wealth and prestige, she had been deceived by a penniless scholar, her heart stolen, her body taken. That great-aunt lost all hope and joy. Meanwhile, her younger sister was destined for the Eastern Palace. Destined for boundless splendor. All that glory should have been hers. Unable to bear such a stark contrast, the great-aunt renounced the world, choosing instead to live among ancient Buddhas and flickering lamps. My eldest aunt once said, "Love is the most ephemeral thing in the world. Only wealth and status, which you can hold on to, truly matter." Even my mother, who had been childhood sweethearts with my father, once whispered to me, "If your father weren't from the Yang clan of Hongnong, I never would have married him." After I came of age, the imperial decree granting the marriage was delivered to the young residents. I prepared for the wedding with peace of mind, my younger sisters chattering around me. When our eldest sister enters the Eastern Palace, she'll be the crown princess. How majestic. The only flaw is that our aunt injured herself saving His Majesty years ago, so the crown prince isn't her biological son. But since the crown prince reveres our aunt, he'll surely cherish our young family's daughter too. My tomboyish third sister, however, pursed her lips. I feel for our eldest sister. I heard that years ago, when Minister Sun's family was confiscated, it was the crown prince who saved that Sun family girl. He even schemed to bring her into the Eastern Palace as his personal maid through the secret courtyard. The moment my third sister finished speaking, the room fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances, then looked at me. I smiled faintly. It matters not. I knew long ago the crown prince had a flower that understood his words. Sister, does it not sting your heart? I gazed toward the imposing imperial city. What I, Yang Yi, seek is power and the enduring prosperity of the Yang family. Since he has given his love to another woman, then that power shall be mine alone. On our wedding day, Li Lizho and I knelt to pay homage to heaven and earth. During the ritual bow between husband and wife, he refused to lower his head, instead staring fixedly at Sun Nyayan standing nearby. Only after a eunuch from the Ministry of Rites quietly reminded him did Li Lizho reluctantly bow to me. Seated in the sunrise hall of the Eastern Palace, Chow, the matron attending to me, sighed. Your Highness, the crown prince, kept staring at that Miss Sun the entire time. This old servant saw it clearly. Her eyes were red-rimmed, brimming with tears. The maid Xiao Hong chimed in. Who says otherwise? Bringing bad luck to someone else's wedding. We all saw it just now, the pain etched on the crown prince's face. Within the bridal chamber, dragon and phoenix candles cast flickering light. I dismissed the palace attendants. In the silent room, the hissing of candle wicks could be heard. I pulled down my veil, removed my phoenix crown, and pushed open the window. There, embracing Sun Miaoyun, the crown prince stood on the roof of the Eastern Palace's main hall, gazing at the moon. The full moon hung high in the sky. Suddenly, I realized that the faint flutter I'd felt when I was very young, and the brief fantasy I'd harbored about him not long ago, vanished in an instant. It was as if I'd been doused with a bucket of cold water, leaving me utterly sober. I began to feel relieved that he hadn't played false with me from the start. Once I severed all emotional ties, holding only the glory of my family and my own future in my heart, I could go much farther. I knew I was an intruder between the crown prince and Sun Miaoyun, and I understood perfectly well that a defenseless woman could rely only on the crown prince. But born into a distinguished family, I had no say in my marriage. I could only use this marriage to rise to the clouds and obtain everything I desired. Beneath the bright moon, lovers whispered sweet nothings. Inside my chamber, red candles flickered. Seeing my wedding gown and the bridal veil and phoenix crown set aside, my heart sank like the moon setting in the west. After the moon sets, dawn soon follows. I refuse to be the moon of love poems, tangled in the tender sorrows of lovers. I will be the phoenix bird above the rising sun. Even if it meant solitude, I would shine brilliantly. Even if the path burned me, I would accept it willingly. Gazing at their figures, I murmured to myself, Yang Yi, allow yourself just a moment of sorrow on this wedding night. To be the master of one's fate, one must never hesitate to use any means necessary. If you pity another woman, you must relinquish that man, demanding their gratitude and devotion. Tears fell beside my hand, and my sorrow vanished in an instant. Li Lizho spent the entire night gazing at the moon with Sun Miaoyun. This affair spread like wildfire throughout the palace. Empress Dowager summoned Sun Miaoyun for questioning. Li Lizho grew anxious, which is why he sought me out. His eyes blazed with fury. Yang Yi, I have not the slightest interest in you. We've been married but a single day, yet you went to your aunt to slander Miaoyun. How utterly vicious. Miaoyun is frail. Should anything happen to her, I shall make you pay. I fastened the golden hairpin in my bun, then turned to meet his gaze. If I hadn't reported her, would the crown prince have apologized to this humble consort? He seemed taken aback by my words, forcing himself to reply, this is absurd. How could I, the crown prince, apologize to you? I gave a subtle nod to Nanny Chow. Nanny Chow immediately understood and brought in several maids who were close to Sun Miaoyun. Xiao Hong declared, no one from the Chaoyang Hall left the Eastern Palace today. Nanny Chow and I never left the crown prince's side. But I saw you lot sneaking out earlier. Were you chattering outside the cunning palace, deliberately letting the empress know about this? The others, already prone to fright, remained silent yet visibly flustered. Li Lizho continued defending Sun Miaoyun. Miaoyun is so gentle and kind, how could she act this way? I scoffed. Now that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has stormed here demanding answers, his concern for her only grows. Hasn't she already achieved her goal? Auntie Chow declared, these girls are clearly nervous and suspicious. They've caused discord between the Crown Princess and His Highness. Best send them to the Yao courtyard to sweep floors. Only then did the maids cry out. It was Sister Miaoyun who told us to spread the story along the palace walls. She said only then would the Empress punish her and not blame His Highness. I fought the urge to roll my eyes. Li Lizho froze in surprise. Why would Miaoyun be so foolish? He was eager to leave, but I said, Your Highness, you still haven't apologized to me. Yes, I'm sorry. Is that enough? Watching his retreating figure, I felt nothing but absurdity. The future ruler of a nation, so blindly infatuated with one woman, had be toppled sooner or later. If someone else were to do it, I might as well do it myself. I walked along the palace walls, palace servants stealing glances at my expression all the way. When I reached the Empress quarters, Li Lizho was standing punishment in the courtyard with Sun Miaoyun. Under the scorching sun, Sun Miaoyun's face was pale. Li Lizho, however, wore a resolute expression. They truly were a pair of lovers bound by profound affection. Upon seeing me, Sun Miaoyun uncomfortably lowered her head. I looked at Li Lizho. Your Highness, newlyweds should present tea to His Majesty and Her Majesty together. Sun Miaoyun whispered softly. Your Highness, please go. There's no need to anger the Emperor and Empress over Miaoyun. My eldest aunt sat upon the imperial throne, seeing no trace of emotion on my face. She finally relaxed. The Emperor sat briefly before taking Li Lizho to the southern study for discussions. My aunt and I remained in the chamber, watching Sun Miaoyun outside. My aunt remarked, "You certainly possess remarkable composure. She craves the crown prince's affection. But what I desire is power." My aunt smiled. "I thought you'd be distressed for days. Aunt, don't you think a man who's lost control, or rather, a man willing to defy you and His Majesty for a woman, would treat this empire as child's play?" My aunt understood the meaning behind my words. "You are wise. What you cannot bring yourself to do, I can do for you. Aunt, release her. Spare her harsh judgment henceforth. All she did was to protect herself. I refuse to be her enemy. Yet we must remain wary of each other. Let us preserve appearances for all involved, lest others perceive me, Yang Yi, as a useless fool who only knows how to complain when wronged." Emerging from the Empress chambers, Sun Miaoyun followed silently behind me. Suddenly, she stepped forward and declared, "Crown Princess, had I not been the daughter of a disgraced minister? Had I not been rescued from the Yeo courtyard by the Crown Prince, perhaps today's events would have unfolded quite differently." I felt no anger, instead gently tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Miaoyun, do not delude yourself into thinking you can provoke me. You should know that for something I don't care about, others' attempts to provoke me are useless. Also, I know the Crown Prince is watching nearby. Save your little tricks for him." I turned to leave, but she rushed recklessly in front of me. "Crown Princess, I was wrong." I immediately stepped back, then turned and started running away, leaving Sun Miaoyun alone. Disheveled in the wind, around the corner, Li Lizho stood, his face ashen. "She apologized to you. Why did you run?" I feared she might suddenly go mad, throwing herself to the ground in kowtows or banging her head against the wall. "You'd feel sorry for her and then blame an innocent servant like me." Li Lizho froze. I curtsied to take my leave and hurried away. Nanny Chow remarked, "Even if the Crown Princess reprimanded that Sun girl, it wouldn't be considered overstepping. How could a lowly servant dare to climb to the top of the Eastern Palace?" I toyed with a small vase in the hall and smiled. A vase naturally has its purpose. Filling it with flowers brings a sense of peace and joy to those who see it. I wouldn't waste my time troubling a mirror maid after all. She's not powerful enough to threaten my position. In the Eastern Palace courtyard, Li Lizho carried Sun Miaoyun through the main gate. A large crowd of eunuchs and palace maids followed behind. Through the small lattice window, I watched him urgently summon the imperial physician. Standing under the scorching sun for hours naturally earned the Crown Prince's sympathy. Otherwise, this miscalculated move would have left her suffering for nothing. In the world of vying for favor, nothing proved a more potent weapon than a man's pity. But I, Yang Yi, refused to play by those rules. Nanny Chow, go immediately and summon the matrons in charge of the Empress and the Dowager Empress palaces to the Eastern Palace. They must oversee the imperial physicians treating Sun Miaoyun, whether administering medicine or prescribing remedies. Someone must be present to witness it. Additionally, inform the eunuchs, palace maids, and guards at the Chaoyang Hall that they are to remain on duty outside the hall for the next few days. Anyone entering or exiting other areas of the Eastern Palace must register with Eunuch Chin. This will prevent anyone from making baseless accusations against me. I have no interest in engaging in petty squabbles. Chow Nanny nodded. Outside, dark clouds suddenly gathered. A howling wind brought torrential rain. Inside Fenghua Hall, the window was suddenly blown open by the gale. Li Lizho was holding Sun Miaoyun while feeding her medicine. Out of the corner of her eye, she gazed at me through the window with icy detachment. Raindrops pelted the water tank in the courtyard, sending ripples across its surface. The lotus swayed in the wind, truly a white lotus of the prosperous era. I leaned against the window, utterly content. I sipped tea, read books, and occasionally nibbled on fruit. The patter of rain echoed softly. Across the courtyard, someone performed a play for my amusement, truly a life of utter ease. Yet just as I reveled in this bliss, Li Lizho suddenly caught sight of me through the window. A flicker of confusion crossed his face, mingled with irritation. For a full fortnight, Sun Miaoyun had failed to find an opportunity to pin the blame on me. Li Lizho grew increasingly baffled by me, always wearing a look of speculation when facing me, until his pity for her reached its peak, and he sought to elevate Sun Miaoyun to the position of consort. He tried to find a trace of anger on my face, but all he could see was 7 parts of scorn. Within the Eastern Palace, everyone believed I should be furious, that I should challenge Sun Miaoyun. A chilling atmosphere permeated the palace walls. Li Lizho began to guard against me, only to find I never crossed a single line. I never killed women, especially not those who depended on men to survive. When Sun Miaoyun transformed into the Eastern Palace's consort, I knew this woman would raise the curtain on a battle between us. But the play I intended to perform was never about competing for Li Lizho. Rather, I intended to cede Li Lizho entirely to her. I would make their love run deep as the sea, drive them weary of the palace walls, and send them to the commoner's home they so desperately envied. I wanted him to become Wang Qianyan, forever stripped of his status as a dragon son and phoenix grandson within the palace. But I must bear the future heir of this dynasty, spare the child, not the father. I refuse to be some worthless crown princess or empress, entangled in palace intrigues for a lifetime. If I am to be anything, I will be the Empress Dowager ruling from behind the curtain. I will ensure no daughter of the Yang family must marry an unwanted noble heir for political alliance. I will ensure the Yang name no longer relies on daughters to bring glory to the family. I admit I am profoundly arrogant and utterly elfish. When I heard the story of that great aunt who entered the monastery, I felt no pity for her, only sorrow for her, and for every daughter of the Yang family. If one day I, Yang Yi, rise to the zenith of power, I will ensure the Yang clan no longer needs daughters' marriages to sustain it. I will make the Yang family the mightiest clan, where both men and women possess supreme freedom. The prerequisite for all this is that I must climb to the very pinnacle. On the day Sun Liangdi received her title, Li Lizho sat beside me in the Eastern Palace's main hall. He watched the woman head long admired with palpable pain, forced to kneel before me and offer tea. He even feared I might splash hot tea onto her face. Yet I sipped her tea leisurely, then bestowed numerous treasures upon her. My insincere smile left Li Lizho utterly baffled, unable to fathom my true intentions. As he took her hand, everyone expected me to be filled with resentment or jealousy. Instead, I remarked with casual indifference, "Congratulations to the Crown Prince on acquiring such a fine lady." His eyes widened in utter bewilderment. After I returned to the Chaoyang Palace, he inexplicably came to my quarters again, sitting silently before me. "I know you've endured hardship these past days. Seeing how gentle and kind you are, I hope you'll get along well with Miaoyun henceforth. I shall treat you better from now on. I will not let you suffer as Crown Princess." Suddenly, my eyes crinkled with a smile. Do you remember when we were very young? I once saw His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. He was being chased by a wild beast, and it was this servant who shot an arrow through the beast's head to save you. I thought you might remember, but these past days, it seems you do not. He paused, slightly startled. "I have wronged you. Whatever you desire, I shall grant it. But Miaoyun is innocent. Now that you are the rightful consort of the Eastern Palace, I implore you not to mistreat her." I smiled faintly. "Your Highness seems terribly afraid I might harm Miaoyun." "That is not what I meant. I suddenly stepped closer and tugged at his sleeve. Young E is the eldest daughter in our family, with many sisters. I grew up raising my younger sisters from childhood. I know your highness does not favor me, nor will you ever truly know me, but as crown princess, Young E must consider the imperial family. If your highness grants me a legitimate heir, I shall harbor no other improper thoughts. What improper thoughts? I bit my lip and lowered my head, such as hoping to earn your highness true affection and love. His ears flushed crimson, and he rose abruptly. Young E, you truly know no shame. Watching him stride away, I murmured to myself, the weak are prey to the strong. Blame not my cunning thoughts man for himself. Heaven and earth destroy. Sun Maoun's background wasn't hard to uncover. What surprised me was that besides the crown prince, others also felt pity for her. Wei Wuji, the youngest commander of the imperial guards, often aided her within the palace. Even her release from the Yeo courtyard was secured by his plea to the crown prince. While I bathed and changed, Xiao Hong had already uncovered everything. The Wei and Sun families were long-standing allies. Wei Wuji had even been betrothed to Sun Miaoyun years ago. Later, when the Sun family fell, Wei Wuji knelt in his own courtyard, begging his father to intervene and help. I sneered coldly. The Sun family committed treason. During the transport of supplies to the front lines, Sun Miaoun's father embezzled vast sums of silver and delayed military intelligence, causing tens of thousands of soldiers to starve to death on the battlefield. That such deeds could still earn her the protection of the crown prince and a commander of the imperial guards is truly amusing. Xiao Hong's face twisted with resentment. My elder brother died in the battle at Yanming Pass. En Lin Zhou. If not for that scum of the Sun family, how could my brother have met his end? I see that Sun Miaoyun as a selfish, self-serving creature. Now that she's latched onto the crown prince, she'll surely climb higher and higher. After bathing, I sat by the window reading. Suddenly, I sensed someone lurking furtively beneath my window. Holding my breath, I leapt out and saw a man in black darting onto the rooftop. Xiao Hong tossed me my sword. Clutching it, I followed the man's trail. He kept glancing back, so I hurled a hidden weapon, a poison silver needle, into his back. The poison needle caused him to plummet from the heights. Auntie Chow had already summoned the Eastern Palace guards. Seeing I had captured the man, everyone exchanged bewildered glances. Your Highness, the Crown Princess, please refrain from taking matters into your own hands. Allow us to remove the man's mask. Standing on his chest, I lifted his mask with my sword. What a coincidence. Commander, might you explain why you appeared outside my Chaoyang Hall in the dead of night, dressed in night attire? Could it be that I, the esteemed crown princess, have committed some crime requiring your personal interrogation? Wei Wuji turned his head away, and the guards stood uncertain. Li Lizho and Sun Miaoyun arrived belatedly. He held Sun Miaoun's hand while observing me with my sword drawn. Yang Yi, what exactly is happening here? Your servant was reading when I suddenly sensed someone lurking about. I took up my sword to pursue the culprit myself, never expecting it to be the commander. Sun Miaoun's face paled. She knelt on the ground without hesitation. Your Highness, the Crown Princess, I beg you to spare the commander's life. Li Lizho frowned. I suddenly smiled. Sun Liangdi, someone was lurking in the palace, and that someone is the commander of the Imperial Guards. Whether to take his life, or what truths might be extracted from him, is no longer within my authority. Could it be that in your eyes, the safety of others matters less than the commander's life? Tears rolled down Sun Miaoun's cheeks as she clutched Li Liz's house robe. Your Highness, please speak for him. Li Lizho, report to His Majesty. Detain him for now. His gaze flickered toward my sword. I never knew Your Highness the Crown Princess possessed such martial prowess to capture the foremost warrior of our great Zhou. I shook my head. Because I used hidden weapons, I am a woman, not a gentleman. Using hidden weapons for self-defense, what harm is there in that? I bypassed him and Sun Miaoyun, returning first to my bedchamber. Nanny Chow looked tense. Could it be that consort son sent Wei Wuji over? Well, find out tomorrow when we question him. Nanny Chow broke out in a cold sweat. Young lady, if she wants your life, will you still hold to your original resolve? Refuse to kill her. No sooner had Chow Nuer finished speaking than Li Lizho stepped into my chambers. He looked at me. You were frightened today. They'll stay with you. My expression remained impassive. It wasn't I who was frightened, but Miaoyun. I hear Wei Wuji and son Miaoyun grew up together. She must be suffering greatly today. Your Highness, perhaps you should go comfort Lady Sun instead. He spoke with difficulty. Can we just let this matter drop? Tomorrow, they'll report to Father Emperor that I asked the commander to help safeguard the Eastern Palace. Does safeguarding require wearing night attire? Yang Yi, consider this a debt owed to you. This matter ends here. Suddenly, I wore a look of scorn. Your Highness, if I were to meet my end, would you still let this matter rest? But you're fine now, aren't you? Yang Yi, since childhood, I've trained in martial arts to strengthen my body, to protect myself, and to guard others. If I were helpless, unable to defend myself, and met with harm in the shadows, Your Highness, would you find that acceptable? Or are you afraid of implicating consort son? His face twisted with awkwardness. I continued, speaking to myself. Let me guess. She must have been weeping and wailing to you, complaining about how miserable life is in the Eastern Palace, and her dear brother just wanted to avenge her. Right. Sun Maoyun's few sobs hold far greater weight in Your Highness' heart than Yang Yi's life. He grew flustered. I did not mean it that way. Ah Yi. Do not speak thus. You are my crown princess consort. How could I ever treat you so harshly? My eyes suddenly stung with tears. But Your Highness, words spoken cannot be taken back. I've always been dutiful and never harmed anyone dear to you. Now that someone has targeted me, I never imagined my life would be so worthless. Had never seen me cry before. He fumbled awkwardly to wipe my tears. I thought you were strong-willed and wouldn't cry. Stop crying. Just pretend I never said those things. Li Lizho spent the night in my chambers. He lay on the soft couch by the window. I knew he hadn't slept a wink. His heart had already begun to crack, ever so slightly, because of me. At dawn, Wei Wuji was stripped of his official rank. Even under torture, he refused to reveal a single word of the reason. What a fool! When I arrived at the prison, he was covered in blood, yet his gaze was unwaveringly resolute. Wei Wuji, to covet the crown prince's woman, you truly have the nerve. He glanced at me. I said, your future was once bright. Now it's ruined over a woman. Surely you don't feel no regret. His voice was hoarse. What do you know? A vicious woman like you, who loves to snatch others' possessions, you're not worth a single one of her fingers. We're two of a kind. Commander Wei isn't much better than me. Coveting the crown prince's woman is like a rat in a sewer. I didn't want to waste time. I only said, I spare your life today. Remember, it's my magnanimity not to bother with two vermin like you, not fear of you. Upon leaving the prison, Xiao Hong was puzzled. Wouldn't it have been so satisfying to take his life? Gazing at Li Li's house carriage in the distance, I replied calmly, I want Li Lizho to remember forever that he owes me. Besides, if he and Sun Miaoyun leave the palace someday, Wei Wuji won't fear him as the crown prince anymore. Xiao Hong's mind raced. You truly think 3 steps ahead. My lady. Li Lizho stood by his carriage, Sun Miaoyun looking somewhat stiff. I curtsied first, then spoke softly. This humble servant has already petitioned His Majesty, begging him to spare the commander's life. Before Li Lizho could respond, I brushed past him and climbed into my own carriage. He suddenly released Sun Miaoyun's hand and rushed to my side. I have never considered your life worthless. I remember your kindness. Ai, and Miaoyun will thank you too. Our eyes locked. His face filled my pupils, utterly earnest. What Ai did was merely to ease the crown prince's mind, not to bestow favors upon others. I drew the carriage curtain shut. The crown prince stood frozen in place. Xiao Hong lifted the window curtain. Your Highness is standing motionless. Go home and send word. Have mother send the finest pregnancy tonic to the palace. Sure enough, Li Lizho felt indebted to me. He stayed in my chambers for several nights. I forced myself to endure the nausea, catering to his every whim. Even as Sun Miaoyan played sorrowful melodies daily in the side hall, he remained unmoved. Only occasionally would he stand outside the window, lost in thought. I remarked indifferently, Your Highness, as Crown Prince, it must be agonizing to be unable to make your beloved your lawful wife. Go see her. He could no longer suppress his longing, pressured by both the emperor and empress, and pressuring himself. The guilt he felt towards Sun Miaoyan only deepened. After some time, the imperial physician diagnosed me with a pregnancy pulse. I breathed a sigh of relief. Sun Miaoyan grew increasingly silent. The news of my pregnancy felt like a knife, slicing open her heart until it bled. When she came to pay her respects, her complexion grew paler each day. That day, I dismissed all attendants. Looking at her, I asked, Sun Miaoyan, have you ever wished for a life of your own with Li Lizho? She looked at me suspiciously. This humble servant does not understand the meaning of the crown prince's words. You are right. You were once a noble lady. Had your family not fallen into ruin, perhaps the Eastern Palace might have welcomed a new bride. But the East Palace will welcome many more women. Even if he ascends the throne, countless constraints will limit his freedom. Would you truly wish to share your beloved with others? Her eyes suddenly reddened. I would gladly live our life together. But he is the crown prince. What choice do I have? I stared into her eyes. Sun Miaoyan, you're clever. You know how to exploit a man's guilt, otherwise you wouldn't have risen from the secluded courtyard to where you are today. In your youth, you were a renowned scholar in the capital, skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, even well-versed in military strategy. Surely you understand you can't have everything. Sun Miaoyan, are you suggesting the crown prince and I leave the palace? I remained silent, yet her gaze grew intense. Why? Because you and I are not enemies. Neither of us can control our own destinies here. But we must choose which path to follow. From that day onward, Sun Miaoyan's health declined rapidly. She grew increasingly gaunt. Her gaze toward me filled with speculation and confusion. As Li Lizho's attention shifted more toward her, I felt more at ease. Li Lizho occasionally visited the Chaoyang Palace. Watching my belly grow larger, the frown between his brows deepened. He would often frown and gaze into the distance, i.e., life in this palace is utterly tedious. He uttered such words with increasing frequency. I petitioned my aunt to arrange a selection of consorts for the Eastern Palace, for it could not remain with only 2 concubines. His Majesty now had only Prince Li Lizho as his heir, and the scarcity of royal offspring had already caused him some anxiety. Seeing me, pregnant as I was, still so mindful of propriety, he could not resist bestowing numerous gifts upon me. Within and beyond the palace walls, most praised the Yang family's daughter as a noble soul born to be a queen, one who understood propriety. But only I knew that the tiny spark of affection and love I once felt for him had long vanished on our wedding night. When you don't care, you don't feel jealousy. Sun Miaoyan learned that the Eastern Palace was about to hold another selection. Her health grew increasingly fragile, yet she still dragged her sickly body to see me. Yang Yi, do you truly have no desire to compete with me for Li Lizho? I stroked my belly and shook my head. What I wanted, I have already obtained. Her tone carried a hint of contempt. What you wanted was merely a child. I remained silent. She gave a self-mocking laugh. I admit I'm on the verge of madness. If it were just you and me in this palace, it might be bearable. But if other women enter, if they too bear his child, I fear I'll lose my mind. He promised us a lifetime together, just the 2 of us. He swore it. I glanced at her. Lately, His Highness has spoken to me more often. He says this palace is utterly tedious. Miao Yun. No one here can fulfill you. Only you can fulfill yourself. Before she left, she seemed to make a resolution. Yang Yi, I thought once you became crown princess, you would surely come for me. But I never imagined you would do nothing. I told you. We shouldn't be enemies. We're both people who can't control our own destinies, born into noble families, or even as the crown prince. There are always things beyond our control. After she departed, Li Lizho spent several consecutive days by her side. 3 months remained until my due date. My aunt deliberately postponed the Eastern Palace selection by 3 months. It was sufficient enough for me to safely fulfill my role as Crow WN princess, watching them grow weary of the palace walls day after day, without a single drop of blood on my hands. I would witness them step into the most perfect conclusion I had meticulously crafted for them. Sun Miaoyun confided that Li Lizho had considered taking her out of the palace. His resolve, however, remained unsteady. I had my father instruct his disciples to submit a petition, declaring the Sun family guilty of treason and demanding Miaoyun's removal from her position as consort. Otherwise, when the daughters of noble families entered the Eastern Palace in 3 months, would they not be forced to share equal standing with the daughter of a convicted traitor? Suddenly, the palace was abuzz with undercurrents. Sun Miaoyun's constitution was delicate, so I provided her with herbal formulas designed to induce sweating and further weaken her. She drank the concoctions daily. Yet her health deteriorated steadily. Li Lizho finally resolved to take Sun Miaoyun far from the imperial city. They planned to fake their deaths in a fire on the day of my delivery, a day when everyone would be in a flurry of activity. Li Lizho did not know that everything was unfolding precisely as Sun Miaoyun and I had calculated. My body grew heavier by the day. He would gaze at my belly with a look of constant regret. You will be a wonderful mother. Our child will surely grow into a noble and upright person. The imperial physician said your pulse indicates it's a boy. I stroked my belly. Your servant desires nothing more than this child. Guilt flickered in his eyes. Over those 3 months, he penned many letters by hand. They seemed to channel a father's emotions toward his unborn child. I always watched his every move with a cold expression. The day before the child was born, he celebrated my birthday. In the Hall of the Rising Sun, he tentatively asked, if one day I were gone, would you grieve? I only said, I will raise the child to adulthood. I will not grieve. That night, he gently embraced me from behind. Yang Yi, in the end, it is I who have wronged you. I feigned deep sleep, my heart leaping with joy. At last, I could kick them both out. The next day, I felt my waters break. Midwives and palace attendants bustled in and out, while Auntie Chow and Xiao Hong kept encouraging me. My mother and several younger sisters waited outside the hall. But then, a raging fire erupted in the Hall of Blossoming Beauty. From the windows of the Hall of Rising Sun, we could see the flames burning fiercely. I am Yang Yi. My childhood name wasn't as gentle as those of other noble ladies. When I was born, Father consulted a fortune teller who declared my fate lacked fire. Thus I was named Yang Yi. And my childhood name became Sihua. The fire in Fanghua Hall blazed just like the fire in my name. After the flames were extinguished, my life began anew. In my life, there would never be a lack of fire again. Thinking this, I screamed with all my might. The piercing cry of a newborn baby echoed through the Hall of Rising Sun. When I awoke, His Majesty had already discovered a letter in the Crown Prince's study. They had attempted to deceive the heavens, plotting to fake their deaths in the fire and flee the palace. His Majesty intended to press his advantage, but upon seeing the loud crying infant in my arms, he burned the letter cleanly in the candle flame. Attendants, proclaim my decree. Crown Prince Li Lizho and consort Sun Miaoyun perished in the blaze at Fanghua Hall. The nation shall mourn. The palace walls draped in white silk. My son proclaimed Crown Prince. Thus, I need no longer vie for favor with any woman. My hands remained unstained by blood. They had cleanly elevated me and my child to the dynasty's pinnacle. As the crown prince's coffin left the city, I followed behind it, playing the role of a grief-stricken widow before the masses. Perhaps Li Lizho and Sun Miaoyun watched me from within the crowd. I surrendered him entirely to her, while I gained the supreme power and wealth I desired most. When my son turned 6, His Majesty passed away. He ascended the throne. His aunt became the Grand Empress Dowager, and I became the Empress Dowager of the Great Zhou. I ruled from behind the curtain, guiding the young emperor to secure his throne. That year, I was only 22. The young clan was at its zenith, no longer needing to sacrifice their daughters' marriages for alliances. When the young emperor turned 13, a boy of unparalleled valor, I relinquished power to him. Auntie Chow suddenly sent word. Empress Dowager, Li Lizho seeks an audience with you in the capital. I fiddled with my armor. Why see someone who's been dead for years? Auntie Chow, if the Empress Dowager refuses, he will find a way to see our emperor. Under cover of night, I rode by carriage to a secluded villa on the outskirts of the capital, having not seen Li Lizho for years. He appeared gaunt and emaciated. Sun Miaoyun was not by his side. Upon seeing me, he reached out to embrace me. I stepped back repeatedly. What do you want? He seemed flustered. I'm sorry. I faked my death back then. I wanted to live freely outside the palace with Miaoyun. I nodded. I know. The late emperor found the letter you left behind in your study. I also know you left the capital. You went to Hangzhou, to Fujian, to Yunnan. He froze in place. How could you? I stared at him coldly. Because it was I who made Sun Miaoyun stir pity in your heart, pity that drove you to risk everything to carry her away from that prison called the palace. Why? Why? Li Lizho. You should know the responsibilities you bore as crown prince. Yet you chose to abandon them for a woman. My young family did nothing wrong. Yet you looked down on us from the start. I merely handed you over completely to the woman you loved. This was fulfilling your wish and mine. Li Lizho smiled bitterly. Yang Yi, I know I've wronged you. Why must you speak such piercing words? These are not piercing words. Li Lizho, they are the truth. He clasped my hand. Now that liner has ascended the throne. I've grown weary of life outside the palace. Shall we reunite as a family of 3? So Wei Wuji and Sun Miaoyun are together now. He froze. I continued. Wei Wuji is, after all, a man of martial arts. He and Sun Miaoyun grew up together, childhood sweethearts. Such deep affection is hard to sever. As crown prince, you grew up in silk and satin, never lifting a finger. Even the deepest affection pales beside the stability Wei Wuji can offer her once she leaves the palace. Li Lizho's voice cracked with tears. Why? Why did you scheme this far? Why? My schemes were built upon your own sincerity. You stepped into them willingly. Nanny Chow brought a cup of poisoned wine. Li Lizho, had you stayed away from the capital, I would never have sought your death. Now that liner firmly holds the reins of power. I cannot and will not let him risk his life. Your coffin awaits in the Eastern Mausoleum. If you die today, I shall send you to your rightful place. His eyes burned crimson. Do you feel nothing for me? I laughed as if hearing a joke. On our wedding night, even if I harbored the slightest affection, it vanished completely. The moon that night was so bright I could only see you and her as a perfect pair. I long ago understood my place. Man for himself. Heaven and earth destroy him. Li Lizho. You have no right to speak to me thus. Nanny Chow pushed the wine cup toward him. He drained it in one gulp, regret and tears flashing in his eyes. I could have ascended the throne. It was meant to be mine. I pressed my index finger to his lips. Hush. You severed your own path. The potion took effect, and he passed out. I ordered him taken to a villa under my name. The wine contained a memory-erasing powder. When he awoke, he would be an ordinary peasant. He would forget everything from his past. There was no antidote for this potion. I wanted him to transform from a dragon's son and Phoenix's grandson into a house sparrow, never to fly back into the palace walls. The carriage swayed as the moonlight remained bright, carrying him westward. We would never meet again, and I would never be stained by a single drop of blood, remaining the proud Empress Dowager I was, enjoying boundless splendor. Days later, Xiao Hong returned from outside the capital. "Your Majesty," she reported. "I've informed Wei Wuji and Sun Miaoyun that Li Lizho hanged himself in the capital's outskirts, tormented by love." Holding the vase in my hands, I trimmed excess branches with scissors. If they're wise, they'll understand Li Lizho's fate must remain secret, should they ever betray us. This Empress Dowager will ensure they die without a burial place. Messengers from the village frequently arrived. After regaining consciousness, Li Lizho remembered nothing. He had become an ordinary peasant, married a kitchen maid, and lived a quiet life. He would never know that he had once been the arrogant crown prince of the Eastern Palace, destined to rule the empire and be worshipped by all. To eliminate any future threat, I ensured he would never have another child. Under my tutelage, my son grew decisive in battle. Resolute and unyielding, he manipulated the previous dynasty like clay in his hands, yet never stained his own hands with blood. The world hailed Li Lin as a benevolent ruler who cherished his people and ministers. None knew he too schemed against his courtiers to achieve his ends. To preserve the Yang family's wealth and prestige, my father retired to the countryside, while my elder brother and third sister personally took up arms to demonstrate their loyalty. We understood that imperial power concentrated in the hands of the emperor's in-laws was something every ruler detested. The Yang family never overstepped its bounds, which only deepened Liner's affection for us. I had no desire to send another Yang daughter to the palace. Yet, unexpectedly, Liner and my niece, Yang Miao, had grown up together since childhood and were already deeply in love. After Liner's grand wedding, other women finally began to enter the palace. They came from distinguished families, each possessing exquisite beauty. My youth has faded, yet I never regret my choice from those days. Seated in the Sinaying Palace, I watch wave after wave of young, vibrant girls enter the palace. Each has her own schemes, all for the sake of her family. They all hold their breath, hoping to carve out a place for themselves in the struggle for favor. But the moment one sees herself as a mere plaything to be toyed with, she loses her color. Yang Miao was wise. She understood her duty as empress, flowing like a gentle spring that gradually softened the emperor's temper. Her methods were masterful, never staining her hands with the blood of the harem. Seated upon the imperial throne, she resembled an ethereal immortal. Auntie Miao naturally knows what she ought and ought not to do. Suddenly, I recalled many years ago, when I first entered the palace, the look on my aunt's face as she spoke to me. "Miaoer, you know, this Empress Dowager never wished to see another daughter of the Yang family enter the palace." She gave a sly smile. "Aunt, every future emperor of the great Zhou dynasty will have the blood of my Yang family." I smiled. Indeed, Li Lizho was not my aunt's biological son. To the Yang family, he felt more apprehension and distaste than anything else. What others failed to see, Yang Miao articulated in just a few words. With such wisdom, I can rest assured. Epilogue. In my old age, Li Lin took me and many concubines to Jiangnan. Nanny Chao had long passed away, and Xiao Hong had become my personal stewardess. One day, Xiao Hong and I watched the sunset by the riverbank. Suddenly, I spotted an old acquaintance standing not far away. She approached hesitantly. Guards behind me tried to stop her, but I waved them off. She shuffled toward us, her steps unsteady, her youthful appearance long gone. She sat beside me. "Wei Wuji has passed away." I nodded. "I know." She suddenly smiled wryly. "All these years, you never sought to destroy us completely. Why?" Our eyes met. "Because you could never truly affect me. I never saw you as enemies, but as stepping stones." She paused, stunned. "So this was all your plan? You gained your love, and I gained everything I desired. Sun Miaoyun. I didn't wipe you out because someone reports your daily life to me. When Li Lin came to fetch me, she looked dazed. He resembles his father. I squeezed her hand. True feelings shift in an instant. Inside the palace, you thought he was your sky, the one who could rescue you from suffering. But outside, he's an otherworldly nobleman. His hands never touched the mundane. You, however, had to shoulder the burden of supporting both of you. You'll find he's changed, because what you truly loved wasn't him, but the life he provided. Her lips trembled. I smiled. As for Wei Wuji, he possesses every skill capable of granting you a life of stability. Compared to Li Liz Ho, he appears in the mortal world as a great hero who rescued you from the flames. Sun Miaoyun, I granted your wish for love, yet you still lost, for you never once considered forging your own future. Instead, you became a pitiful, clinging weed. When he loses his privileged status and finds himself unable to move an inch, he ceases to be your hero. Your love is truly cheap. Li Lin paced over. Mother, let us depart. I never looked back, nor did I need to. Li Lin turned. Mother, who was that woman? Merely an old acquaintance, a rare encounter. Your son and Miaoer have prepared specialties from Jiangnan for you tonight. Let us savor them. I nodded with a smile. Very well. Once seated in the carriage, Xiao Hong finally asked, Your Majesty, aren't you afraid she might spread rumors? I shook my head. This Empress Dowager has not shed a single drop of blood. Why should I fear her idle talk? The mountains are high. The road is long, yet I harbor no regrets. True hearts may shift in an instant, but I shall forever remain the Empress Dowager of the Great Zhou. Every sovereign who follows shall carry the blood of my Yang family. The end.